So we've covered the pre-release campaign, we've done a very lengthy explanation on the GSSR, which go check that out, it took me a lot of work by the way, but finally we have one of the more important decisions that you're going to have during the 7th anniversary, and that's going to be which one of the limited 5-star CEs do you pick. Now there's a lot of options, definitely some very powerful CEs are going to be available for you to pick, but unfortunately it does boil down to two decisions for pretty much 95% of masters. If you don't have something like 2030 but you already have Kaleidoscope and Black Grail, this doesn't really apply to you because you're kind of already living the good life and you have the luxury to go pick one of the side CEs. But Black Grail and Kaleidoscope are such game-defining CEs, Kaleidoscope in the early game and Black Grail in what I would consider the modern meta of the game, that it could be very difficult for a newer player to be able to parse out which one of these is more worth picking. And you'll see a lot of discourse online saying that, oh, it is undeniably Black Grail, which I don't disagree with, but there are some decent points that you could still make for Kaleidoscope. But I will encourage people that I am going to be very pro Black Grail in this video. I think it is definitely the best CE to pick up, with maybe a small corner case argument where you would pick up Kaleidoscope over picking up another copy of Black Grail, because even that small corner case assumes you already at least have a copy of Black Grail. And speaking of the CEs, in the background of the video, to make the point of the entirety of this video, I'm going to be showing Melusine doing the exact same node with the CEs Kaleidoscope, that is max limit broken, max leveled up. I'm going to be using Cranking, which is max limit broken, almost fully leveled up at 94 of 100. I'm hoping you'll forgive me on that slight miss out on the extra little bit of attack points. It shouldn't matter too much, and it should still help the point of the video, because Black Grail is also going to be max limit broken and fully leveled up. It should show you the progression of how these CEs impact your performance in a server that can make the full use out of all three of these CEs. It does go without saying that Melusine doesn't need Kaleidoscope, but it just will help some people visualize, okay, here's using K-Scope, here's using what is considered the pretty solid, really good overall buster CE that you could be using, and ideally if you can get away with Black Grail. If you do find this video to be helpful, I would appreciate a like on the video and maybe a subscription to the channel if you do, again, find it to be helpful. But with that being said, let's start diving right into this video. So first and foremost, let's just make a little bit of an argument for Black Grail, because there is something to be said about a CE that does allow you to start off at 100% of your starting charge. Now, you may be wondering, well, ZTL, it only gives you 80%. And yes, during the first couple of years of the game, it would limit you to only 80% of your starting charge. But now we have append skills, and even though it's very convenient to get higher NP copies of said servants so you can immediately start getting into those append skills, that's not always going to be the case with higher and higher rarity servants. Once you start getting to 5 stars, it's very unlikely you're going to pull multiple copies, and you're going to have to bond them up a little bit, but you can still, for free, I mean, outside of free pulling the servant, you can get that append skill done. That gives you an additional 20% starting charge. So functionally, a Kaleidoscope does translate to 100% starting charge as soon as you enter the battle, and that's not nothing on a lot of very good support servants. Think of somebody like Tamamo that benefits very heavily from just being able to open up in the battle with, you know, no charge of her own and not having to dedicate any charge from your other supports, to just being able to fire her NP outright. Her NP is one of the best things, if not the best thing hands down, about her kit. So being able to get that going immediately is very strong. There's also someone like Merlin or Lady Avalon. I know Lady Avalon has the ability to technically fire her own NP immediately if there's enough enemies, but you know, it makes the same point that getting an early NP going for both of them can give you a strong head start in a battle. And then there's also a lot of servants that don't have their own charge. If you're not doing normal standard farming and you need someone like, say, Iskandar, who does really good damage but lacks a battery, he really benefits from something like Kaleidoscope. But unfortunately, a lot of that, especially in the DPS department, is just very old meta logic. That's not really stuff we do anymore, mostly because even with the Kaleidoscope, if it's an NP1, you know, 5-star servant, even that's, you know, not rocking the most recent power mods, and even sometimes is rocking the most recent power mods, it might still not be enough to be able to clear some of these nodes, especially because we are going to be getting 90++ nodes that are going to be debuting on the summer event that's going to be going going live in about 2 weeks, and maybe about a week and a half after the event starts proper, we should start seeing the first 90++ nodes hitting the NA side of things. If you've been playing for about the last yearish, I would say you've noticed that there's been this kind of increase in difficulty with the 90+ nodes in free quest, and it's not just going to be in farming events, you're also going to see it on the Bleached Earth missions that we're going to be getting in, I would say, about like 8 months from now, if my math is correct. And some of those nodes are going to be a bit chunky to take down. I mean, you have some really strong enemies. I mean, you're opening up against 100k plus enemies. Wave 2 might have 300k plus enemies, and the final one might close out with people being 400, 500k plus, sometimes getting close to 1,000,000 HP. And regrettably, these are some of the best nodes to go farm. Not only do they have some of the better drop rates in the game, I mean, there is a Las Vegas node that pretty much has comparable drop rates to doing the dailies, and that node is often half off because it's a Bleach Earth quest and it's limited on your daily tries. But then you also get a ridiculous amount of bond. Being able to take advantage of these, get in there every single day and farm these Bleach Earth missions is going to really give you a strong foot forward in being able to, unlock certain bond CEs. Think of people like Heracles or Tyra that just have really strong bond CEs that you want to be able to get, or the Saint Quartz you can get from bond 10+, where you get 30 per bond level. That's just a nice thing to kind of passively be getting going every single day. And something that is going to help you out a lot with that is Black Grail, because the game is no longer, I would say, solely based around just the charge alone. It is based around how much damage you're going to be able to do. And this is not just a buster thing. Again, I'm using Melusine in the background because she can really make use of all three of these CEs, and I think it makes a good point. But Arts is a very, very good user of Black Grail as well, because Castoria can get you to 100% with both of them, and you still reserve the ability to plug suit in a Waver, a Lady Avalon, an Oberon. It's incredibly powerful that you're essentially getting a free 60% NP damage, and you're not really losing much in terms of looping. In fact, your looping might be even better because you're hitting higher levels of overkill, because you're just absolutely clocking the enemy with a massive NP damage buff that, especially if you have Oberon, is getting overclocked whenever you go into the final node, and that is what is going to make your life easier on the 90++ and the Bleached Earth missions that, again, just have the best drops. They have the best bond rewards, which I know a lot of people care about. But even if you don't care about, say, doing the free quest, maybe you're one of those guys that you pretty much just play the story. You don't really care about the events too much. You don't even necessarily finish out the shops. You're playing the game for the story, which is respectable. But what if I also told you that Black Grail is pretty optimal, if not the most optimal thing to be doing in most boss fights? There are some fights where you have to take it slow and steady. You can't just run in there, but for the most parts, whether it's advanced quest, recent boss fights, challenge quests, if you've been out to any one of my streams, I'll just run in there with Black Grail, won't even read the information if it's on JP because I can't read it, and I'll just blitz through it. You'll just be able to trash most of the content. And even if you brought a really bad team that doesn't really optimize or strategize very well with the current challenge quest or whatever advanced quest you're doing, sometimes you can just get away with it because your damage is so high. I mean, Kaleidoscope, again, does have those benefits of, yeah, you can get an early NP off with, say, a Merlin or, a Tamama. That can be very nice, and you'll be really good coasting until like turn 10 or 12 where you finally beat the fight. But somebody with Black Grail probably already took that guy down at least, at the earliest on turn 3, maybe the latest turn 5, because you're just shredding through these enemies. And not to spoil any future boss fights, but in the next couple of story chapters, you do not want to be hanging out with some of these boss fights, right? You do not want to be sitting in there for a long amount of time. They will outstall you. They'll remove your buffs. They'll just start out grinding you with HP, defensive buffs, again, yeeting all of your buffs before you can even get them back. And so being able to just slam them into the dirt before they have the chance to really get disgusting with all of their gimmicks is an insanely lucrative thing that you're able to do. Now, this one I know everybody already knows about, but everybody is just absolutely terrified of the ORT raids. Even me, with my year-old JP account that had some really strong servers, people said, oh, you can't go into the ORT raids. The guy's got 1,000,000 HP. That is chump change, because I picked up Black Grail during the anniversary. Thankfully, I was playing around that time, and I walked in there and clocked all of the lives with relatively low difficulty. You just kind of walk up and beat them up, which for some people might be a little disappointing. You might be like, oh, I wanted a big, more epic fight, you know, with this, you know, larger than life enemy. But realistically, he's going to do a lot of unfair stuff to you if you don't just bust his jaw in. And that's what Black Grail allows you to do. It's not only optimal for farming if you're going to be using arts and quick teams, because again, like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Ruler Scotty is very good with Black Grail. That extra bit of NP gain is going to be very crucial in allowing some of the better quick servants to step into that domain of the arts farmers that get to use Black Grail every single day. And we're gonna be getting more and more buster units slowly that are able to take advantage of Black Grail. I mean, we already have Melusine, the ever elusive anniversary unit, will also be able to take advantage of it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Artoria, the original Saber, can also use Black Grail, if I'm not mistaken on that one. So we're getting more and more buster units that are able to take advantage of it, obviously more slowly, because the balancing is that, well, you know, arts can use it all the time, but they don't get to have the buster buff that Oberon provides. But if Buster can use Black Grail, not only do they get the overclocking on the third skill, but they also get the massive buster buff as well, and that's just kind of not fair for the other two card types. So that's where it's balanced at right now. If you're wondering why there's not more 100% battery, you know, buster servants that can take advantage of Black Grail, that's why. But we're just in a damage meta where, whether you're going to be doing farming, especially with 90++ nodes that I can't stress enough are the best farming nodes that you can be going into, the bleached earth nodes that are absolutely fantastic if you can get into them. I mean, there's even just really fast nodes you can do. There's like 1 million HP enemies, you run in, you one-shot them, you're done, you know, you call it a day. Forget the days of having to do 3 nodes, you just run in, one-tap them, and you're done. Your farming is that easy. And having something like Black Grail can make it that easy. You can just run in there and absolutely dominate those fights, as opposed to having to sit there for about 3 turns, which sometimes you'll see me do in, you know, different videos showing off servants. I use them as glorified punching bags, but if we really wanted to, we could run in there with Black Grail and probably 1 or 2 shot them. Now, if you're wondering about the one corner case that I was talking about, where maybe you would want to take Kaleidoscope over Black Grail for that kind of nice convenience factor of, you know, some CQs where you do want to be able to get to that early start, because maybe the CQ starts really difficult and you want to start hitting the ground running really, really hard, it would be one of those cases if your Black Grail that you already own has no dupes, or maybe only 1 dupe into it, because then at that point you're not really close to max limit breaking it. Might as well take the Kaleidoscope for the added convenience of being able to utilize starting off at 100% of your max NP. But if you already have 2 dupes or 3 dupes into your Black Grail, you would still go after picking that CE, because if you have 3 dupes, you've now max limit broken. It's not a 60% NP damage CE anymore, it's an 80%, and it is well worth taking to its max level, because unlike most CEs that have, you know, a 2000 attack point cap off, this one caps off at 2400. It gives you just that extra little bit more of attack on top of an additional 20% NP damage buff. It's ridiculous. I also say it's worth if you only have 2 dupes into your Black Grail, because then if you pick up that additional copy, you're at 3 dupes, and any random banner you summon on can give you that last Black Grail copy. And so you're pretty much setting yourself up for a random surprise. Whenever you go to summon, you know, next on the next hype banner, you might just get a Black Grail, and hey, you've got it now maximum broken. You're setting yourself up for success. But that's basically my quick and easy thoughts on whether or not you should be picking up Black Grail or you should be picking up Kaleidoscope. I hope this was very helpful to you guys. I kept it a lot shorter than yesterday's video. Believe you me, my throat is still reeling from about 4 to 5 hours of straight recording yesterday, so that kind of was a bit painful, but hopefully a lot of people are finding that other video to be helpful as well as they have found this one. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice rest of your day, and I'll catch y'all on the next one.